As a color consultant, sometimes I watch videos where people criticize color analysis, and I thought that it would actually be a good idea to watch a video with you and comment on it or answer the questions directly about the process, about the science behind it, and most of all, does color analysis really work? The video is by Erin from her channel My Green Closet, where she shares her journey of creating her ethical and sustainable wardrobe. Let's listen what Erin has to say.
Whenever I talk about wearing colors I'm not supposed to wear or how I can't really get behind the color season thing, y'all have a lot of thoughts. I always get comments saying, well, I think you're actually this season, or people asking, have you had your colors professionally analyzed? Which, fair enough. If I'm going to talk about liking my supposedly unflattering colors and sometimes criticize seasonal color analysis, I should probably learn more about it and actually get my colors analyzed. So that's what I did, and I'll share my results, which surprised me.
And I already want to say thank you for doing this, because many of videos I've seen with criticism of color analysis were made by people who never had their color analysis done. And I understand that someone doesn't have a knowledge about color analysis because they aren't color consultants, right? And this is where someone like myself can come in and actually explain what color analysis is about. But a lot of criticism is actually, I've heard about color analysis, I'm not interested in finding out more because I don't believe in it, and this is what I have to say about it. So I'm really happy to see a video from someone who found out a lot about color analysis and also tested it for themselves. Especially that if someone like that criticizes color analysis, this can provide valid and helpful information for color consultants who can use it to improve their services or communication with clients.
So I started by reading more about the theory of it and spent way too much time on the color analysis subreddit and on social media looking at pictures and videos of people draping different colors on themselves.
I just want to say that social media isn't always the best place to find out more about color analysis. And yes, I mean, you are watching this video on YouTube, that's also a social media. But a lot of content that I've seen is very simplified, especially if it's a short content. People just share the same simplified or incorrect information. Not every color consultant has the same level of knowledge. Some of them don't know how to communicate it. And in those videos, sometimes it's difficult to tell who actually is a color professional and who is a fan of color analysis, because color analysis is one of these trends that people just jump on because it's popular and they know they will get a lot of views and engagement.
And before we get into it, I really want to say that just because I don't like this system doesn't mean that you can't find it a helpful tool. If knowing your color season helps you choose clothes, gives you some framework, and you feel good in your recommended colors, that is wonderful. I'm not here to say that you shouldn't use this system if you like it and it works for you. Utilize whatever tools aid and inspire you. However, if you are someone who finds the seasons confusing, can't figure out how you fit into it, finds the palettes restricting, or maybe you just don't like your seasonal colors and prefer wearing other colors, then I'm here to let you know not to worry about it. You likely don't neatly fit in one of the 12 boxes, and you can definitely look amazing in colors that aren't your season.
I would like to stop here because no one fits neatly, almost no one fits neatly into one of the 12 seasons, because color seasons, same as colors, are a spectrum. And I like to visualize color seasons on a color wheel, where you can see exactly how one season transforms into another. And so people can be at different spots of this spectrum. Someone could be exactly between two seasons. Someone could be closer to one than another. Someone else could fit exactly into one specific season. This is why it's so important to make sure that your color consultant will create a personal color palette of your most flattering colors and won't give you the standard seasonal palette.
So first, let's talk a bit about the history of seasonal colors. In 1980, a book called Color Me Beautiful came out, which looked at two main traits: warm or cool undertones and light or dark features, to sort you into one of 4 seasons. And an important thing to note is that it was primarily developed for white women, although it has been adapted now to be more inclusive. However, there is some debate about how inclusive it actually is.
Yes, it's not inclusive. I talked about that book in one of my videos. I have the newer version, the one that is supposed to be inclusive. The thing that I criticized was that, yes, it shows women with different skin colors, but it still assigns women with darker skin color to darker seasons in color analysis. And this is a big subject. I have an entire video about discrimination in color analysis. The guidance based on a person's appearance. So, for example, a spring would have blonde hair and green eyes, and a winter would have black hair, pale skin, and blue eyes, isn't accurate and is very misleading, because color analysis should be based on color attributes, not a person's appearance. And also, it doesn't consider that people can have different features and different skin tones.
The way you used the system was by draping different colors on yourself, and the idea was that some would make you look young, healthy, and radiant, while others made you look gray and sick, which, as much as the system claims to be rooted in color theory, it still often feels very subjective, but we'll get more into that later. And while seasonal color analysis has had its highs and lows, 40 years later, it's still being used and promoted across social media. I feel like especially in the last few years, it's gotten a big boost again. And I totally understand why this system became so popular. We want to look good, but fashion, clothing, what to wear can sometimes feel overwhelming and confusing. So having some guides of good, bad colors and even good, bad cuts for our body shape gives us a framework to feel more confident that we look good and are wearing something that suits and flatters us. And there's nothing wrong with this. If you feel good in your clothes, that's what matters. But where I see the red flags are how this system can be used to make people feel insecure and sell products. Because it's pitched as, who wants to look drab and sallow when you can look radiant and beautiful?
Yes, in general, marketing directed especially to women is and has been based on negative feelings, fear, shame, products that have been advertised as a solution that could help you avoid something. It doesn't apply only to color analysis, but marketing directed to women in general. I think a big part of it is systemic, but then individual color consultants advertising their services and communicating them to other people should be aware of that and avoid the language of fear and scrutiny.
I really wanted to know was, where did these color palettes originally come from? And it turns out that categorizing colors into seasons is originally attributed to painter and art teacher Johannes Itten, who grouped them into these warm, cool hues and light, dark value palettes. And the concept behind these palettes is harmony. So because these palettes share similar traits, they are harmonious. And therefore, the idea is that you can...
Okay, I will stop here. So the history of color analysis is actually much more complex, and I'm very bad at remembering names and dates. So I'm going to check everything and paste it on the screen. There was one person who was a chemist and had a company making dyes. Customers were flagging that the color of the paints was inconsistent, so they would buy the same color twice, and in both cases it would look different. When he investigated it, he discovered that colors have different appearance in our eyes depending on what they are surrounded with. And then there was another color professional who wrote a book about attributes of colors that we now use in color analysis, and they describe whether a color is darker or lighter, softer or brighter, and cooler or warmer. And then Johannes Itten wrote a book about aura, and who discovered that his students seem to use for their paintings the colors that seem to be a part of their personal aura.
Hi, editing Gosia here. I'm interrupting myself so rudely to highlight a very important detail. Johannes Itten was the first person to theorize and systemize the theory of color contrast. He also created a program for study of this subject for students of art and other fields using colors. He was very aware of the concept of contrast when creating his color palettes. I forgot to mention another person, Robert Dorr, who was a color consultant for cosmetic companies, and he had previous experience of working with color in other industries. He was the first person to categorize colors by their undertones, cool and warm, first when working with paints, and then he applied his method to create makeup foundation products. Important to mention, his system was inclusive of all skin tones.
They didn't create color analysis, but they were first to describe the theory of color that we use in any sort of art and design to this day, and color analysis was also based on that.
The theory behind it also doesn't totally add up for me. If we truly look great in some colors and sallow and sick in others, it should be fairly obvious. Yet, there is a lot of debate about what season people actually are and what colors look good or not, and people have very different opinions about it, which shows me that it is more complex than it's made out to be. If you look through a thread of someone with different draped colors on them, there will be people saying, number 1 looks best, number 2 makes you pop, 3 is more flattering. People can't agree, and with a few colors, there might be a very obvious, that looks worse, but the person usually knows the actual bad colors already.
Yes, so I think that in many cases people know at least more or less what colors suit them. And yes, they get some colors wrong, but I don't think that it is because it's so difficult to see. I mean, this is a huge subject because one side is, of course, color professionals who are trained to see those differences, which is exactly the issue that Erin mentioned. But I think that even people who aren't trained know more or less what colors suit them. For example, very often when I have a client for color analysis and I ask them about the colors that they like and dislike, usually their favorite color is either a color that suits them and color analysis proves it, or a color that is very close to it, and their least favorite colors are usually the colors that don't look great on them. And even outside of color analysis, I know a lot of people who don't even consider whether a color looks good or bad on them. They just like colors that I know that are their flattering colors. And then I also think that it's a matter of perception. When we talk about colors, a person would usually say that they don't like red and they like blue. But this is a very simplified way of seeing colors. And even if people look at you and don't think about colors and know nothing about colors, they will see that you look well or you look tired. And they won't attribute it to the colors, but this is the effect that colors have, and it is visible.
It's editing Gosia again. In this part of the video, I was referring to linguistic relativity. It's a hypothesis that the language that we speak influences our worldview and cognition. If you ever learned a foreign language, you probably already know that not all words and expressions can be translated directly from one language to another. These differences are especially striking when we compare languages from completely different cultures. The example that is relevant for this video is differences in perception of color. And this subject has been studied extensively in the context of linguistic relativity. On the physical level, humans around the world can see colors in the same way, of course with individual exceptions like, for example, cases of color blindness, but different cultures have different vocabulary to describe colors, and it's rooted in the usefulness of colors for that particular culture. The Himba language, Himba is an ethnic group living in parts of Namibia and Angola, has an extensive vocabulary describing various shades of green. There was a study. Participants of the study were showed 12 color swatches, of which 11 were the same shade of green and 1 was a different shade. They were told to indicate the odd swatch, and most of them were able to identify it straight away. The control group, Europeans, failed miserably. Now I want to show you these swatches. Look at them very closely and try to spot the odd one. Now you can pause here because I'm going to reveal the odd swatch in a moment. It's your last chance to pause. Now. And it's this one. Let me know in the comments if you could see which one was different, because I couldn't. For the Himba people, it's been very important to pay attention to nature and plants, so they learned to recognize them on a nuanced level, and as a natural consequence, they created names for those shades. Another interesting example is the Hanuno language, used by an ethnic group living in Philippines, and their color attributes. On the most basic level, the Hanuno people perceive colors through two basic attributes, and a color can be fresh or dry and light or dark. What's even more interesting, the Hanuno perception of color goes beyond the color itself. They also consider the texture because, for example, a freshly cut sappy twig would be described as dark and wet, but a twig in the same color that was cut a long time ago would be described as dark and dry. It's similar in color analysis, where we associate softness with matte colors. So soft seasons, soft summer and soft autumns, are advised to choose matte makeup, as that is their most flattering texture, and are advised to avoid glossy textures and a lot of glitter. But in our colloquial talk, texture is never considered as a part of the color. But that finally leads me to the main point. In Western culture, we commonly categorize colors by their names. We talk about yellow, green, purple, grey, and so on. People who try to identify their flattering colors might find a shade of red that suits them and come to a conclusion that red suits them, because that's how we think about colors, right? But then they try another shade of red and it doesn't work so well for them. Additionally, they might find a shade of blue that suits them, when before that they had tried other shades of blue and they didn't like them. So in the end, they are confused. They say that they have no idea what colors suit them, they can't see it, and they don't have an eye for color, and they give up. If we talked about colors differently, instead of saying blue or red, we started using a different language that describes colors by their other features, we would also start perceiving colors differently. It could turn out that in our perception, these shades have more in common than these shades. And by the way, they do, according to color theory. All these colors are bright, warm, and light. In color analysis, they flatter bright springs. As a cool winter, we are told that blue is our most flattering color. However, here I can see only a few shades of blue that would look good on me. There is no way that all these shades would flatter one person because they have different color attributes. And so, if we started to use color attributes in our colloquial language instead of talking about red or blue or yellow color, and started to commonly perceive colors by their attributes, it would be much easier to find your most flattering colors by yourself. And to be honest, color consultants would be out of work.
Here's a few photos of me in different colors. Let's do a test. Pause the video and comment below which colors you instinctively think look best on me.
I think 2 and 3 and 6. No, not 6. 2 and 3 and 1. That's my choice, but I think the second is the best.
I want to share something else I've noticed. I watched a bunch of videos with people holding different colors on themselves to show which are better, and in so many of them, when the person has the good colors on them, they are smiling, sometimes fully or just sometimes a little, but either way, they look happier in certain colors. And those seem to always be the colors that everyone comments, that color looks amazing on you, or it brightens you up. And I just can't help but question, is it the color that's actually making them look better, or the fact that they are clearly happier and feel better in that color that makes them look more radiant? Okay, so I got my season analyzed and I went into it pretty sure that I was a summer. I did do a virtual analysis though, which granted is less accurate than an in-person one, but I followed all of the photo instructions very carefully, no makeup, natural light, did a bunch of drapes, so I still think it was very accurate.
You know what I'm going to say. I don't think that online color analysis is less accurate than an in-person one. I have an entire video where I compare both methods and talk about their strong and weak points. And as you know, I provide only a digital color analysis, although I was trained in both methods. For me, digital color analysis can actually be more accurate because I have more time to test different colors, go back to them, test them again, change shades. These are things that aren't possible in person when you have a limited time with someone. Both methods are equally good. With online color analysis, yes, it's very important to take photos in the daylight, photos without any makeup, but your color consultant should give you exact instructions, and really it isn't that hard. You don't have any special conditions to take accurate photos. Daylight and a white background is enough.
And I am apparently a light spring, which is a warm season, and this was so surprising to me because I feel like I have many signs of cool undertones. My veins are blue, I burn, I don't tan.
Tan, the color of your veins, are not an indicator of your color season.
Hairstylists also regularly are surprised that this is my natural hair color because of how ashy it is, and usually I find cooler foundations and concealers work better for my skin than yellow ones. Anyways, the warm result was very surprising, and to some extent just further proves to me that this system doesn't work the best and is confusing, because how can I have so many cool characteristics and still be a warm season? And since we're getting into skin tones, I do want to be very clear that I always have some color adjustments on my videos, so how you're seeing me here isn't exactly what I look like in real life. I used to make my videos more cool like this because I liked the crisp white, and then over time I started making them warmer. It's just an aesthetic preference that has changed with time.
Light spring isn't exactly a warm season. The warmest season out of all springs is warm spring. When light spring is a season between warm spring and light summer. Summers are cool seasons, and light spring being in between the two combines the features of warm and bright spring and cooler and softer summer. Some people who are light spring could actually lean towards that brighter, warmer color palette, when some others would lean towards the cooler and softer palette, and their own features would also be slightly cooler and softer. So maybe now one explained to her that her sister season could be light summer.
I love orange, and learning that I'm actually warm and a spring did make me feel more justified in wearing orange, although the oranges that I like aren't really in the spring palette. And I mean, to be honest, I don't like most of the colors in my palette. The neutrals and blues I would wear, but most of the colors just don't excite or inspire me.
To be fair, if someone got their color analysis results and don't like their colors and try to wear them and still don't like them, it could be the matter of preference, but it could also be a matter of a color consultant giving them an incorrect result. So if you don't feel that your seasonal colors are yours, you could seek second opinion.
Find some of my light spring colors to try them on, and first of all, these specific colors are hard to find, which is something else that I think makes the system very limiting. Most clothes don't come in huge ranges of colors, so if you find a style you like but it's not in your specific shade of green or pink, then what do you do?
I can tell you what you can do. I actually just recorded a video on this subject, and it will be published on my channel soon. Color analysis isn't only about colors, and you don't have to look for colors that match your color swatches from your color analysis one-to-one. Color spectrum is huge. There is an unlimited number of shades of the same color. What matters more than specific colors is the aura. If we look at light spring color palette, as you can see, it's a palette that is light, very colorful. We could call it candy colors. It's quite bright, but not oversaturated. And even if you don't wear the exact colors from your color palette, you can still recreate that look.
Here are some comparisons with my spring colors and a different version of the color that I already own. And I'd be interested to know if you think the spring ones look better.
I think they do.
A big benefit of doing this analysis is it pushed me out of my box and made me try some colors that I wouldn't have even picked up before. Do I love those colors? No, but I think trying new things and experimenting with clothing can be really fun, and also great for helping us figure out our personal style, and it's really nice to be surprised by something that you maybe initially thought you wouldn't like. So going forward, I do think I'll try some more of my seasonal colors and hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised by some. And that getting out of your comfort zone aspect of the system I think is great, just as long as it's not being framed as you can only wear these colors. Because a key part of color theory that I think this
Yes, don't limit yourself. Color analysis should help you dress quicker, help you create a more cohesive wardrobe and cohesive makeup bag that, as a consequence, will make you save money. But it can also help you experiment with color more. When walking out from your color analysis, a good color analysis, you should gain an understanding of colors. Your color consultant should show you how colors work, and that will open your eyes on more colors, on different color combinations, on different ways of thinking about colors, and notice and admire and enjoy colors more, not only in fashion.
Key part of color theory that I think this system leaves out is contrast. So the color seasons are all about harmony and similarity, but contrasting colors can actually really make things pop. So opposite colors on the color wheel are called complementary colors, and for a reason. This is why there's things like in makeup they say to wear the opposite color eyeshadow to your eye color to make your eyes bright. So for example, I am very pale, and according to the color seasons, I shouldn't wear anything dark because it's too harsh on me.
So first of all, I didn't hear that makeup rule about eyes, and I can already tell you that it wouldn't necessarily and always work. It's not about a color, it's about color attributes. If you are a cool season with brown eyes, cooler shades of purple will suit you. If you are a cool winter and your eyes are blue or gray, purple will also suit you. If you are a warm season and you have warm brown eyes, then warm shades of purple will suit you. No, I think there's many rules that are oversimplified. I'm not surprised that Erin mentioned contrast, because as a light spring, there is a lot of contrast in her features, and contrasting color combinations are highly recommended for her color season. Harmony doesn't necessarily exclude contrast, because harmonious in the context of color analysis and color palettes and how Johannes Itten created them, harmonious means having the same attributes. When you look at the light spring color palette, there are contrasting colors here. You see shades of red and green, they are opposite to each other on the color wheel. They create contrast and they can be combined together, and they are in the same color palette. Also, in color analysis or color attributes in general, brightness means high contrast. A bright season in color analysis is the season that has bright features, that is flattered by bright colors, but is also flattered by highly contrasting color combinations. And that applies to bright winter and bright spring the most, but also other seasons with relatively high contrast, like warm spring, cool winter, and slightly less light spring. On the other hand, seasons with low contrast are seasons that are flattered by softer, muted colors, but also less contrasting color combinations. One thing that I realized, the color palette that Erin shared with us doesn't have a wide range of colors. All colors in her palette are light, and that's not very practical. I would like to know if this is actually the color palette that she received from her color analysis, because there's not much you can do with this palette. It doesn't give you practical neutral options. Sometimes you need to wear some darker colors as well as some lighter colors. This palette doesn't give any examples of what she should wear for a smart occasion, and there are some darker colors in a light spring palette, but maybe she's sharing this palette just as an example. Maybe this is not the palette that she received.
So for example, I am very pale, and according to the color seasons, I shouldn't wear anything dark because it's too harsh on me. But two of my favorite colors to wear are dark green and dark blue. I like the contrast. I think contrasting elements can be very striking and are fun to play with. Does it make me look more pale? Yes, but I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. So this dark forest green, for example, is supposedly one of my worst colors, but I love it. I actually think it's a flattering color on me, and not because of how it's harmonious, because of how it contrasts my complexion and hair. Burgundy is another of my
So about this green and navy, I wouldn't say that they look bad on her. And again, I didn't do her color analysis. I can only see her on the screen with makeup and filters on, so I can't tell for sure. But it makes sense to include these colors or some similar shade of these colors in her color palette. I can see it. When I create people's personal color palettes, I can see dark shades of green and navy in a light spring and light summer color palettes, and they are necessary. Exactly, if you need to wear a suit, if you need to buy a coat, you need to know what colors would look best on you. And for light spring, I wouldn't say that you should never wear dark colors and that it will make you look awful. That's not the case. For light seasons, I always say make sure that there is a light color somewhere near your face. So if you are wearing a navy blazer, make sure that you are wearing a light blouse. If you're wearing a dark coat, make sure that your hat and scarf is light, that other elements of your outfit are lighter, because the overall appearance of your outfit, of your aura, of your entire look should be light, but it doesn't mean that you should never wear dark colors.
Burgundy is another of my worst colors, which I really like wearing, and according to these seasonal color systems, these colors supposedly make my skin look blotchy, give me dark eye circles, make me look older, sad, sallow, and one website I found even said that your worst colors will make you look dead and give you a double or triple chin, which I don't even know how that would work. I just don't see how these colors supposedly make me look awful.
Yes, I think it is a bit of an exaggeration. There's nothing wrong with looking pale necessarily. I know that Korean color analysis, for example, prefers paler look or favors colors that make you look paler, and it's a cultural thing. A professional color consultant knows what to look at. The problem isn't a color that makes you look paler. People who don't have a trained eye would call it brighter. And yes, maybe your blue eyes pop and are shiny, but your skin looks grey. During color analysis training and then later in your practice, you learn to pay attention to all these details at once. The untrained eye, maybe they won't see all these details, but they will see the overall result of someone looking particularly bright today, or they would ask you if you're well.
Awful, and it's not obvious to other people either. Yesterday my family was over and I held up these two greens to my face and asked them which looked better on me. Some said that they couldn't really see a difference, but most thought that the darker green looked better on me.
From the video with makeup and filters on, I think that the lighter one looks better.
Granted, that was probably a biased sample because they've seen me wear this dark green before, but honestly, I was glad to at least confirm that I'm not just delusional and these dark colors actually make me look terrible. And let's say that I was typed wrong. My other option would likely be a light summer, and these would still be bad colors for me. So where does that leave us?
But if you are a light spring with light summer as your sister color season, then light summer colors aren't bad for you. Your personal color palette would include colors from both light summer and light spring. The majority of them would come from the light spring season, but you would also have some cooler shades.
While I think the seasonal colors likely work well for some people, I don't think that we all neatly fit into them. The crux of my argument against these seasonal color palettes is basically that if certain colors truly look terrible and amazing on you, it should be noticeable to an average person, not just someone experienced in seasonal color analysis. And even with people who are experienced, there can be debate about what looks better. I know colors that look bad on me. Pale pink, for example, just makes me look very pink, and pale yellow definitely makes me look sick and makes my hair color look terrible. And yet it's apparently one of my colors.
I would like to see that pale yellow then, because there are different shades of pale yellow, some of them even being a part of Cool Winter palette, my palette, and I can tell you that there is no shade of yellow that would suit me. But that's because my own features are even cooler than the standard Cool Winter palette predicts. It's rooted in sister color seasons, but I can imagine some pale yellow shades that are on the cooler side and would suit cool winters and light summers more than they would suit light springs.
Obvious to me, but dark green looking terrible, burgundy looking terrible, I I don't see it or feel bad in them. So while I think the initial grouping of colors into seasonal palettes makes sense, the process of adapting that to also fit humans has, I think, hit or miss results.
I can tell you why it has hit and miss results. It's not the system itself, it's the application of this system. We have 12 seasons in color analysis, and each of them has its standard color palette. Those color palettes and those seasons should be used as points of reference. But that color palette shouldn't be your final choice. So those color seasons are really the closest match that you can find, and from that you should still work on finding the colors that suit that person. Because if you end your job by finding someone's color season and giving them the standard color palette, the job is half done. You want to give them the colors that suit them, and the standard color palette will only help you to do so. That is your entry point, because if you wanted to find someone's best colors from scratch, from looking at the entire color spectrum in the world, that would take you 100 years. But if you narrow down your choices into 12 main categories, and then you will use that category as an entry point to explore all your options, it's much quicker and makes much more sense.
This seasonal color system can be a helpful style and wardrobe tool if you use it as a jumping off point or use it to help you get out of a box, but don't let it limit or restrict you from wearing colors you love.
Yes, don't let color analysis limit you. Don't let it stop you from wearing the colors that you love. Maybe your favorite colors won't be a part of your color palette recommended by your color consultant. That's a risk. If you're still willing to wear your seasonal colors, but you don't want to give up on your favorite color that isn't a part of your palette, your color consultant should help you and tell you how you can do it. When I meet new clients and I ask them about their favorite and least favorite colors, they usually tell me that they are very open. They usually have a favorite color or two and say that if I tell them that some colors suit them, they will probably enjoy wearing those colors. If I tell them that something else suits them, they will also enjoy wearing those colors. But if you are a person who has a very specific mindset about colors, very specific preference, and you know that no matter what a color consultant tells you, you will still wear the colors that you like, and no one will tell you what you should wear or not. Obviously, a color consultant shouldn't tell you that you should or shouldn't wear something, but the service they provide you is you are going to them to discover what colors flatter you, and that's exactly what they do. So if, regardless of what they tell you, you are still going to wear the same colors, just don't waste your money. I'm not saying that you are in the wrong here. I'm just saying that color analysis isn't for you. Maybe color analysis will ruin your experience. If you find out that your favorite colors don't suit you, on the back of your mind, you have the thought that they don't look good on you, maybe that will make wearing them less pleasant. So sometimes it's better to not ask. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed Erin's video. She seems to be a very kind person, and I like how she considered different points of view. If you are considering having your color analysis done, in the description below you can find a link to my website where you can read more about my services, including pricing list, and there is my email address. I will be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.